And welcome to the first meeting of the new school year. It is August 24th, 2026 at 7:30 p.m. and I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Lisle Community Unit School District 202 Board of Education. Ms. Sims, if we could please have a roll call.
Sure. Ms. Novosel?
Present.
Ms. DiDomenico?
Present.
Ms. Foster?
Present.
Mr. Nagler?
Present.
Mr. Helderly?
Here.
Ms. Sims is here, and Ms. Allman.
Present. Thank you. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And we'll reflect on our mission statement, which is to provide our learning community with the essential education, skills, and experiences for future success. And we'll keep those thoughts in mind as we meet this evening. I don't see any anyone for the public comments. Were there any submitted online? Okay, thank you. It brings us to item 5, which is our action items. 5A, which is the consent agenda. 5A1, board meeting minutes. 5A2, payroll pay orders. 5A3, vendor pay orders. 5A4, personnel. 5A4A, certified employment. 5A4B, classified employment. 5A4C, extra duty employment. 5A4D, certified leave. And 5A4E, classified retirement. Were there any questions on any of the items? If not, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved. Second.
Okay, if we could please have a roll call.
Mr. Helderly?
Aye.
Mr. Nagler?
Aye.
Ms. DiDomenico?
Aye.
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Ms. Novosel?
Aye.
Ms. Sims is an aye, and Ms. Allman.
Aye, thank you. Item 5B is our board policies for press 122. I know there changes were incorporated. I don't believe any questions were sent on it. Are there any before we vote on that? Okay, otherwise I will go with the motion, or I'll ask for a motion that the Board of Education approves the adoption of policies as presented in the draft documents attached to the board agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
those opposed? Okay, thank you. Item 6 is our financial information. The board acknowledges receipt of the following reports. 6A is our financial report, and 6B. I didn't see any questions on those either. If there's no questions, thank you. Item 7 is our discussion items. 7A is the summary of areas of focus for the district buildings for the current building, or for current school year. Dr. Filipiak.
I think we mentioned this before. The point of this document is we're starting the school year now, and we don't do our school improvement plans until September, October, and November. And so the board wanted some foreshadowing as to what are some of the things that the school district is focusing on in the upcoming year. And so we've listed out the top 5, but there'll be a lot more covered at the September, October, and November meeting that you'll be seeing from the individual schools. In terms of the district level, I don't think there's anything new here that we haven't already talked about, but a quick overview. As Dave had mentioned, we're really at a point where it seems like expenditures are increasing more than CPI, which is essentially what we typically see in new revenue. We're excited that the village has worked with us to have the Polte home come on the rolls because they have asked for no TIF money, and so I think we're going to be getting about $800,000 from that development. But even with that in our projections, we're really thinking it's going to be tight. And so we've brought to you a recommendation for a balanced budget for this year. You can see from the information shared during the finance meeting that it would appear that, for lack of a better word, some things went in our favor. Some of the things in the area of particularly transportation, specifically in special ed for some of the homeless students, went in our favor. And so I don't want to say we got lucky, but that's something that we were very worried about, and so we were able to have another balanced budget by 1 plus something. I think it was $1.7 million for this last year. But again, we're very nervous about what our future performance is going to look like. And so we're going to look really closely at our special ed services, knowing that we'll control what we can control, but in some cases, outplacing students is probably in their best interest based on the needs and the services that they'll be getting. And so close eye on that. We're looking very closely at our homeless students. It's something we want to support a student if they are homeless and they're eligible for special needs and transportation, but really making sure that we have a process in place to make sure that if they're eligible, that we give them the services, and if they're not, just to let them know we'll support them, but they may not be eligible for the extent of the services if they were actually McKinney-Vento. Transportation, unless you have something different to share, I think the transition to the new bus company, if you know, they First Student purchased our current provider, and I think they really did a great job maintaining when they could of the current team. So I think a lot of our drivers and the people at the office, for lack of a better word, are familiar with us, and I think things really went about as well as they could to start the new school year. In terms of staffing level, I think that's the thing we're going to have to look at most closely. We have an extensive detailed information later in the agenda about us keeping an eye on staffing, making sure that we hit at least our targets, but those are the hard conversations we're probably going to have if, as we go through negotiations, if for some reason we can't settle those contracts to align with what inflation is or our upcoming revenue, we may need to look at those staffing levels the programs offered to wind up maybe scaling back a little bit of what we offer. But any of those discussions are going to happen over a period of time, because as Dave mentioned, we've had a few good years of building our fund balances. It's not like something next year, these are the cuts. This is us saying, if we can't settle this contract for a balanced budget, we have a period of probably 1 or 2 years that we may need to make some of those cuts. But it's not as though we're going to make the decision to vacuum, not include, part of the conversation, parents and students. But this is that year it seems like we might be starting to cross. And then finally, and this is also part of our negotiations, is we're really proud of the health insurance benefits that we offer staff. The team has done a really good job getting comps for our other 5 school districts that we look at: Indian Prairie, Naperville, Wheaton, Warrenville, Westmont, and Elmhurst. Just looking to see, is our deductibles in line in terms of what we're offering? Are we still in what I'll call the market? And so this summer we've put in a lot of work getting all of that information, and in the coming weeks, as part of our negotiations, we're just going to make sure that we haven't somehow fallen outside of the market, but there may be some savings after we do that analysis. Moving over to student learning and achievement, this is something I think we've talked over multiple years, through multiple board meetings, just trying to make sure that we correlate. There's nothing worse than having surprises when we get our IAR information. Like, according to iReady, it seemed like we were in pretty good shape. So we're clearly trying to correlate what that information, and if this says we're on target, making sure that we're actually on target for students to meet. Looking at our local assessments, when a student gets a B, what does that mean in math versus a C in terms of a probability? And so we made a ton of progress, I think, over the summer. We're excited in the next few months to be able to share what we learned, but just knowing that we don't have a lot of control over IAR. We don't see the questions. A lot of the information we get back doesn't give us the details we need. So if we can rely on local assessments and iReady to predict it, we can make changes early on so that the students have the best chances possible to passing. In addition to that, we're trying to find those students that are at what I'll call the bubble, approaching rather than met. I think Jason shared at an earlier meeting a lot of the intern work we have now to be able to develop some, for lack of a better word, AI interfaces, dashboards, to be able to identify those students that are right at the cusp and seeing what we can do to make sure we get them over to meet that MET level. And then finally, we've been very proud that in past years, 2 of our 3 schools have made that exemplary. We are getting close, but have not yet met there at the junior high, and so there's really going to be a focus to be able to get all 3 of our schools at that highest level of exemplary at the summative designation. In terms of compensation, employee retention, I'm only speaking for myself. I don't feel like we shouldn't pay market because we can't afford it. I think we need to determine what market is. I think it's on us to be able to make sure that we go to referendum, have the property taxes set our priorities so that we can pay the market and retain good teachers and not say we just can't pay you the fair rate. And so we're working on all that information now. Our hope is to be able to actually start and in a perfect world, settle our collective bargain agreements, both for the teachers and the non-teachers by the end of this calendar year. That's extremely an aggressive timeline, but in order for us to be able to get that done by the end of this calendar year, that will then allow us to make those decisions come spring, that if we do need to make some cuts and head counts, we can make those cuts early on and give teachers an opportunity to be able to find other employment. Hopefully we don't get there, but again, we don't want to stretch this out to next summer and not know what our financial impact is going to be and whether we have the revenue to be able to sustain the contract we agreed to. Artificial intelligence, I think we've talked about this now for quite some time. I think we've got a really good plan in place as to, we have some general rules as to when it's appropriate, when it's inappropriate, but I think as educators, we're all struggling with when is it? And more importantly, it might be different in a math class, it might be different in a science class, might be different in an English class. Most importantly, though, is we need to communicate to students like this is our expectations. These are the reasons why. These are the things we want you to learn. And in some cases, AI will help. Some cases, they won't help at all. In some cases, AI will be your best partner. And so to continue to have professional development, continue to implement the tools that are actually going to be able to help students to learn and improve. I know even myself, I write drafts, and then I put it in chat often, and then it gives me feedback. Sometimes I take the feedback. Sometimes I'm embarrassed by how poorly I wrote it compared to it wrote it. But then just because it gives it to me, then I often make it my own. And so, that's what works for me. That isn't going to work for everybody, but I think those are the types of discussions we need to have as an organization to figure out when it's appropriate, when it's inappropriate, and then some way of figuring out everything in the middle and how we're going to be able to communicate it so that we're embracing AI and not just trying to say we don't use AI. And then finally, stakeholder engagement. I tweaked this a little bit. The point of it is communication isn't something, okay, check mark, we've made it, we've done it. I think one of the things time and time again we talk about in this school district is because of our size, we can have those conversations. Sometimes it's as big as Vision 202 and having the whole community come in and having conversations. Sometimes it's meeting with students who English may not be their number one language, meeting with students, getting their perspective. And so I do think we need to continue to have some types of improvement. I don't exactly know what that looks like yet, but we definitely want to make sure the consistent of how often and how much information we're getting out there is meeting people's needs. I'm very proud of the work that the buildings do every Sunday. It goes out. Is it too much information, too little? I don't know. That's maybe some of the things that we maybe need to learn from a core group to make sure that we're not missing the mark with that. I think Jenna does a wonderful job once a month, like after the board meeting, points of pride, what's going on for this month, and so people know when they're going to get it. Staff news goes out every Friday. We try and hit right at the top, the most important things. But as the author, we feel like we're doing a good job, but I think this is another year where we need to get some feedback. And in past years, we've surveys, we've just met with some people to get some informal feedback, but I do think we're probably at a stage just to, maybe nothing will change. I find that unlikely, but would love to hear, are we actually meeting the needs of what people want? Because it changes year to year. I listed maybe some advisory groups. I don't know exactly what that means yet, but I really have enjoyed meeting with small groups of people and just getting their feedback. As you know, we've met with the elementary students, the junior high students, the high school students. We've met with a variety of parents. We've had large groups and small groups, and each time I think either it validates things we're already doing, but a perfect example is we heard that the parents at Lisle Elementary want more after-school activities. And so as part of the superintendent report, hopefully I had a chance to read that the Park District has been a great partner. They said, absolutely, let's do something in the fall, and let's do something in the spring, and let's do something for younger kids and some stuff for older kids. And so for this first time, based on the feedback we got from those conversations, we'll be adding an art club. And so it's already at capacity. So not only were we excited to have the conversations and be able to partner with the Park District to be able to do it after school, but then to actually have the interest, the follow through. People told us that's what they want, and that's what we were able to add. And maybe if the art goes well, we'll expand to something else and something else, just so at the end of the day, if students would like to stay, to be able to have additional things that often don't occur until you get to your junior high and high school levels. And then just continuing to measure the engagement and closing the feedback loop. There's nothing worse than meeting with people, taking a lot of good notes, and then people not feeling like anything happened. And so I think we need to continue to build on, this is what we heard. More importantly, this is what happened. Because I know when we heard from parents about wanting those after-school things, there's been this big gap between us doing it. And I think we need to do a better job of letting people know this is what was said, this is the conversations we're having, and now it's actually happening, so people don't feel, did we talk about that? How long ago was that? And so just making sure that, we're closing that feedback loop, for lack of a better word. Again, I'm pretty much speaking to the district perspective tonight, and then you'll hear from the schools. Is there anything that within those 5 that you think either could be a sub-part of those 5 or something altogether that was missed, not included in the 5? All right, well, this isn't the document. This might change 3 months from now. We'll do our best to give you periodic updates. We'll definitely have a mid-year update for this specific 5 items, and definitely one towards the end of the year. So, but again, if something doesn't make sense halfway through the year, we'll talk to you about eliminating it. If there's something that's come up that we're like, boy, we didn't consider that in August, we'll definitely add to it. But reach out to us individually or at a future board meeting. We'd be glad to modify this plan.
I just want to add that I appreciate you taking the board's feedback. If you remember, we did a summary for Dr. Filipiak in the summer, and things that we would like to see or things that we felt were missing, and I think in checking all of those are incorporated into these, so we appreciate your including that information.
And then in the closed session, there's a component of that that takes even it to the next level. And so we'll go through those personal as part of my evaluation, things that you asked that I focus on. So we'll continue to talk about that when we go into closed session tonight.
Thank you. Anything else on that? Otherwise, we'll go on to 7B, which is enrollment per building, grade level, and course. And I believe I'm turning that over to Dr. Filipiak again.
This is one of those where I'd like to take credit for all this work, but I'll just tell you as an example what AI did for me in this particular case. I think for the last few years, I've come up with 5 different schedules, and then I have like a bullet point kind of summary as to what I see. And so I put all this into Claude and said, here's the 5 schedules. If there's 5, there might be 6. And I said, this is what I typically share, any feedback. And so Claude came up with this first draft, and then I tweaked it for what makes sense to me. And so I'm hoping the combination of having all of those schedules lets you, because I think Mrs. Allman, you had some specific questions about some of the larger numbers. Is that band and PE? And that's one of the schedules. You can kind of see what that is. But I did think Claude did a really good job of taking what we've seen in the past and then trying to organize it in a way that will hopefully give you kind of that executive summary on that first page. So executive summary is meant to show, in short, we're not seeing a huge change in enrollment. It doesn't take many kids for it to be a larger percentage here, but I think we're well within our capacities. We've seen a decrease of 1 section at kindergarten, so we do have 1 empty classroom now. In time, maybe that will get used again. Maybe we'll continue to see a rollout. I think, Mr. Helderly, you pointed out, when I talked about this is running red and this is what was the norm. There's a few that are not red, but they're just within a few students. But, this gives you an idea of the main takeaways of class sizes, I think, are low compared to most in the state. But I do feel like they're within what we agreed on. We agreed on certain class sizes based on certain grades, and there was really nothing in there that shook out to be able to say this is too low or I feel like we need to add a section. And our enrollment, I don't want to say it's been relatively flat, but it has kind of settled, it seemed like, for the last couple of years. We got that big jump when Lisle Elementary was first built, but I think since then we saw increase, and now it's been flat for about the last 2 years, maybe 3. Anything about the format? Too much? Too little?
I really appreciate it. I think some of you had in the past, it just seems even more polished. And I felt I can go through the whole thing, kind of get a temperature of where we're at on all our grades, especially the bubble years. So, thank you.
The color coding helped. I think we did get one question on, why is this group yellow and this group purple or whatever, but it's just to differentiate between the topics that are being discussed, and that a quick glance, that helps.
I think there was one that Claude thought was a good idea, that if this is a box, sometimes the box only has this much blue and sometimes it has this much blue. And I think it was its way of saying, like, this is a lot and this is a small, and it kind of gets lost in when you look at band and choir and PE, like it fills up, but most academic. But I think we're all trying to learn AI, and just another quick example here is I got from Amy, who's our data person, a whole list of every course and how many students were in it, and I had a spreadsheet that was basically either alphabetical or based on grades, and I asked Jason, like, do you think there's a better way I should be organizing this? And he goes, I think you should group it based on the actual academic area. And so I was able just to say to Claude, do that. And then within zero time for me, however long it took Claude, it was able to reorganize to say, like, here's your math courses, here's your science courses, and it was an amazing way to be able to visualize data that was already there, but organized in a way that could kind of, instead of grade, actual academic area. And so, again, there's no perfect way of doing this. I think Claude did a good job of reorganizing the way we had seen it for the last few years, but if you have other ideas, these changes can be made.
This is good. It gave me a great insight into how we're servicing our students with the greatest needs, how we're servicing students at the top, and then you look at our class size for all the kids in the middle, students in the middle. It just gave me a lot of visibility and transparency into that, and going this. So thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Dan. I think the format was good. It was really easy to follow.
Right.
One thing that I think everything made a lot of sense. I was surprised there is now one of our bigger groups, the ones in red, was a high school class that didn't used to be. So interesting to see we have so many kids joining in high school. But yeah, everything seemed like it told a great story.
So we have capacity issues, one empty classroom in kindergarten. We'll continue to monitor. Since this was published, I think we've had a change in 10 kids. I was very proud of myself being a CPA, like I wanted to be accurate. And then I convinced myself over the weekend, it is so not worth redoing this for 10 kids. But know that it's 10 kids less than what's on here. Didn't go the other direction. Mm-hmm. But I do think that the class sizes are a lot to be proud of, and I think they're somewhat inconsistent with what we would see at other school districts. And I am personally very proud of your support to have our 4 interventionists, 2 in math and 2 in reading, or ELA, at the elementary, because we're able to, through this data, push students in and try and get them what they need, but then get them out as soon as they're where they need to be in terms of catching up to their peers. And so it eliminates that whole summer school thing we try to do to get kids to catch up to their peers. That is just so hard to wait until the end of the year. They're getting it while the rest of their class is actually learning that particular standard. And so they're in with the regular class, but then this is in addition to.
It's also a really good breakdown on the courses that are offered at each school, so that we can see readily. So thank you. Thanks, sir. Thanks, Claude and Keith.
It's Claude and me, but
Yeah,
I think
I
Claude
said
was able
Claude
to
and Keith.
organize it in a way
Sorry.
that I
Let
probably
me
would
say
have
that
spent
louder.
10 hours doing. So it's interesting. And I actually did an interesting experiment. Get me going, and I can't stop on this topic. I asked Gemini, I asked Chat, and I asked Claude to do the exact same thing. And like Claude in my opinion, knocked it over the fence, and others just, it's all just trying to figure out which AI model works best, and just because it says it more, it's not uncommon that it's not accurate. And so it is nice to be able to go back and forth with each, but this was definitely a Claude project.
Now we'll know when he's referencing Claude as one of his friends who he's talking about. So.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I have a unique relationship with Chat because I like the audio version.
If we start to, we'll ask Jason if we should start worrying.
My girls give me a hard time whenever I'm like, well, let's ask my friend in Chat. And they're like, I don't want to hear her voice.
Okay, with that, we'll move to 7C, which is our board code of conduct and agreed upon norms review. And we have set to do this every 6 months. Was there anything that anyone had concerns with the existing? I had over the past, since the last 6-month review, I had a couple board members after one meeting, just talk about, do we have something about not repeating things that have come up at a prior board meeting or whatever? But if you look At number 6, I do think it covers at the second bullet. I will strive to avoid redundancy, and I think that includes not only in topics that are discussed that evening, but also in past discussions. So I think they're pretty comprehensive unless anybody has any. Okay, then we will go on to 7D, which is our Freedom of Information requests, and those are included in the board packet, and no questions on that, I don't believe. Public comment, 7E, public comment follow-up. There was none from last meeting, which brings us to 7F, the superintendent's report. I will turn that back over.
There's a lot included in here, so if I was to give you the executive summary, I really think this was one of our best starts. I saw at all the buildings a lot of excitement of students, excited to come back. Of course, you see the fear of students at 6th grade trying to figure out their locker, and so we did our best, and by the second week, they'll have it figured out. But just that's a scary time, but also I think, I don't know if the word is scary, but that high school transition's a big one, and so I don't know if you had a chance to read specifically about the high school, but in terms of the number of students who were able to participate in the orientation, I think, kind of skimming here, but I thought it was like 96% of our students were able to participate. And so just so glad that students were willing to come in, get that orientation, often student-led, become familiar with the building, become familiar with now being at the big high school. But for the most part, I do think those transitions went really well. We had a lot of staff recognitions. I think we've kind of figured out how the staff would like these first couple of days to come back to feel like, and so I don't really feel like there's any wasted time. I think we give them a lot of department time, a lot of time to dig into their specific teamwork, but then a lot of time just for celebrations and welcome back and how many years of service. Really had again, in my opinion, I've been at Lisle, this is my 20th year. There's certain things I'm just so proud of, and our ability to be able to meet with our new teachers for new teacher orientation and really just have conversations, a group not larger than this. I think we had a total of 8 new staff this year. Janet was part of that, and we just had a table where we sat around and we talked and we went through some things, and we had a great lunch together and got some real positive feedback from some staff saying, like, I have never felt so supported between the relationship with Central, the relationship with the building principal, the relationship with their team, the relationship they have with their mentor. I do think that pretty much everybody new to us felt like that transition got them ready and being part of Lisle from day number 1, and even going out to the buildings. They just, I think we had a great team that we hired this year, even Janet. No, in terms of anything to share from a newbie perspective as to maybe things that maybe were unique to Lisle and part of the process you enjoyed?
I would say definitely it was nice to be able to have the opportunity to view all of the schools through the tour. It was an opportunity for all staff to be able to see, or new staff to be able to see the entirety of the community and what the transition may look like from school to school. So that was a great opportunity that not every district is able to provide. So, and it was led by Dr. Filipiak, which was nice. Jokes included and everything. So it was a great tour.
I think Janet referred
We've
to them
had
as
the tour,
dad
Jim.
jokes, but I'll take what I can get.
But overall, it's a great group. We're excited to join the team.
Just a couple of quick items. Again, not trying to read to you. I couldn't be more proud of I know it's a accolade to the high school, but I think a lot happened before coming to the high school. That U.S. News and World Report came out with their annual report, and the high school was recognized among the top 5% of high schools nationally and 7% in Illinois. And so I think the combination of the relationship with the parents and the support we have with the parents, the hard work of the students, the hard work of the teachers during their K-12 experience here just really shows. As much as we are maybe a small school district, we're still academically very, very competitive to the rest of the nation and specifically in Illinois. And then one of the last things that I was also really proud of is the high school puts on camps all summer. And so if you look, this is the very last item, they offered 28 different camps. and those were students age K to 12, and we had 450 experience. And the reason that's important to me is we're here for the academics, but often your friend group's a result of something you're passionate about outside of that. And so to have 450 students of our 1,500, so essentially about a third of them be able to be willing to be part of summer camps, so that as they come to the school year, if they don't already have their friend groups established, hopefully they get a few more friend groups, and then something they enjoy to do outside of the regular school days. So a lot to celebrate as we start this school year. Anything to add or questions you have about things I pointed out?
I would like to add on behalf of the board our congratulations to the high school for their, certainly, congratulations for their accomplishment, but also appreciation to them. So that is definitely worth celebrating. Also, just congratulate those, the teachers. I think there were 10, 20, 25, 30-year milestones for years of service and those accomplishments. And two of the teachers that will be retiring were mentioned, and want to congratulate them. And I hope their last year in the district is as rewarding as their first year. I also want to add, and I think you may have seen it, or hopefully kudos on the staff videos, if you didn't see those from the high school and the elementary. And whoever choreographed those did a fantastic job, and there's a part-time jobs in there for all of that. But those I think those were not only welcoming, but they add just a fun element to the start of the school year. So I think kids really appreciate them as well.
And even recording it, I think we had a tornado warning at the time and had to go into the shelters in between some of them. So it was exciting yet unique day.
Well, there's a lot of talent there that was unrecognized before. So, but it was really neat, I thought. So
I also want to congratulate on the 5 essentials that you actually shared earlier today. I think we went up in every category at every school, except for one. We down like a couple points, but it was still in the strong range. So congratulations to the district. I mean, it was across the board. So
there's a lot of green and gold, and if you're a Packer fan, it was especially impressive. So that was.
Well, I would also add, you'll hear more about this during the school improvement presentations. The survey is the starting point. Okay, sounds like there's some things we want to address. And I think all 3 schools leaned in hard to be able to say, all right, here's our results. How are we going to work on improving this? And I think committees were put together, staffs volunteered to be able to be part of those conversations. And I think those hard conversations and the work ultimately helped us see improvement that I would hope continue year to year. But it happened because of a lot of hard work by staff members coming together and say, all right, are these the colors that we want? And what can we do differently? So I'm glad it's going in the right direction.
And just the fact that the results are incorporated into the school improvement plans shows that they take it very seriously, and it's an important part. So I appreciate that. All right, anybody else have any comments? All right, we'll go to our committee reports then. The Facility Master Planning Committee did not meet. Finance.
Finance met at 6:45 p.m. in this very chamber, where we reviewed the unaudited financial results and the downtown TIF.
Excellent, thank you. 8C is policy, and I believe we
did not meet, but we approved for second reading several policies.
from 122, so great. And Vision 202 did not meet. Board 9 is a board representative reports. 9A is Home and School Organization, did not meet. There was a list sent out. I believe you probably saw Hilda sent out a list of upcoming dates, and one of those is approaching, so we can work out. Paula, last year you made a really nice chart in case we wanted to.
We already signed up. And
Okay,
so, yeah,
fantastic.
we did that, so.
That's excellent. Thank you for doing that. ISB delegate to board.
Just registration for the joint annual conference has been open since June 1st. The dates are November 20th through 22nd. I think we typically always just go on that Saturday. The DuPage division meeting is October 29th from 6 to 8. There is not a location published at this time. So mark your calendars.
And Marilyn asked that we could let her know. There's a discount early bird registration ends on October 15th. And if we could let Marilyn know directly, she will register it because she will handle any payment that might be involved too. So that would be appreciated. I think for a joint conference, I don't know, there's also been some changes, what's new. And one of them is that the delegate assembly will take place at 11:45, and there will be a lunch included this year. So that's a plus to be.
They'll feed us.
I know, it's, so just kind of dangle that in front of whoever might want to do that. Okay, I think that's, I think those are the main ISB ones. I am still kind of struggling on finding what workshop would work best for us, and I've been talking to Arlana, and she's doing some thought process on it also. There is a new one called Doing Right by All Students. It explores educational equity, thoughtful use of data to guide decision-making, meaningful engagement, and community stakeholders' input. So it's a new one. It's a lot of things that we already do, but she's getting some more information, and she'll get back to me, and we can see whether that might be something we'd want to consider. So still working on that. All right, intergovernmental is 9C. Report is in the board books, and if there's any questions. Len did not meet. Lisle Education Foundation did not meet. SACID did not meet.
SACID will actually meet on Wednesday, so 2 days from now.
Okay, and that's covered. We've got, okay, excellent. Thank you. And item 10, and agenda topics for future board meetings. Does anybody have any specific topics they want to bring back? Okay, I think we've got several that are already on the calendar for September, so it should be a busy month for September. And with that, I will entertain a motion under item 11 to adjourn to closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, performance, discipline, compensation, or dismissal of employees and pending litigation.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so.
So who was first?
I believe
Kate
this-
was,
Was it Kate?
by one letter.
Thanks.
I heard, this year said Mr. Nagler, but that's okay, it's okay. So we've got both of those?
Yep.
All right, if we could have a roll call, please?
Ms. Foster?
Aye.
Mr. Helderly?
Aye.
Ms. DiDomenico?
Aye.
Ms. Novacell?
Aye.
Mr. Nagler?
Aye.
Ms. Sims is an aye, and Ms. Allman.
Aye, thank you. We will adjourn to closed session at 8:07 PM.